Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, September 21st, 2020. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Tristan Johnson. I'm the host of the YouTube channels Step Back History and Tristan Won't Shut Up. And if you want to watch my full streaming schedule, all this is Eastern Time. What you're watching right now is the Monday Discourse, where we get together and talk about comings and goings in the internet world and strange conversations produced by too much social media and tons of history memeing and stuff like that when we get with Mia Mulder, who will be here in just a moment. Tuesday nights from 7 to 10, I have a stream called Step Back Tonight, more of a chillaxing stream with some friends. Oh yeah, if we can get Mia Mulders in chat, please. Then on Fridays, I do the Reactor from 2 to 5, which is a stream where people send me content and I watch and react to it. That will not be happening this week because there'll be a new Step Back video this Friday, so that'll be some pretty good news. I go by he, him pronouns. My work can be found at stepbackhistory.com and tristanwon'tshutup.com. Other things to mention is that it is right now September, so if you have, first of all, if you have Amazon Prime, I know the new season of The Boys just came out, so if you are a fan of TV, of having Amazon Prime, but you really don't like the idea of giving money to Jeff Bezos, one of the ways you can take money away from him is that you get one free Twitch Prime subscription every month. And if you don't use it, that money just stays with Amazon. So if you want to give some money to an independent creator on Twitch, then I would recommend that you do so if you have Amazon Prime. And of course, if you help Step Back out, if you help out this channel, you're helping pay rent and feed cats. That was fun because Phoebe was walking on the keyboard right before the stream started. And you need to keep that happening. You need to keep that chaos in my life. Other things to mention is that because it's September, so for the rest of September, if you want to pay actual money for subscriptions to help out creators, this month they are discounted and all the proceeds go to the creators. So if you wanted to get money around Jeff Bezos and wanted to support a creator, this would be the month to do so. So yeah, and we've already gotten, as you can see, I'm just gonna mute that because what happens, oh, okay, never mind. Sometime, what's it called? The people who run the sort of like chat that we use for managing the Cold War is done in Facebook, and Facebook is possibly the loudest and most annoying of all chat functions, but that was just a friend of mine sending me a meme about a, what's it called? Sending me a story about a gritty statue made of butter. That's fun. Yeah, so if you want to do that for September, much appreciated. Again, constantly with the caveat that don't support creators with money that you do not have, please. I know times are tough, and I know that you really want to help out creators, which is endearing and very admirable. But please make sure you're okay before you start helping out others. Anyways, my latest video, which came out on Tristan Won't Shut Up, was about the colonization of Mars and maybe why we shouldn't do it. Last one on Step Back was about the assassination of William McKinley. And my next video for Tristan Won't Shut Up is hopefully going to be about the whole the strange story of private ICE prisons and hysterectomies. Will be and the next Step Back video, which comes out on Friday, is going to be about Emma Goldman, and it's going to be in some ways a bit of a sequel to the McKinley video. And look, here's a Phoebe, everyone's favorite, why everybody comes to the chat, obviously. So with all of that out of the way, without further ado, we should probably put some candles together and conjure a Mia Mulder, which is great because my PC reset last night, and now I'm like, oh, gotta open Discord to call Mia. Okay, let's do this, friends.
Hello.
Hello. You're looking very purple today.
Yes, things are very purple today. It's one of those. It's one of those Mondays. Hello.
Hey, everybody. Hi. Tell everybody who this Mia Mulder person is.
Very good question. My name is Mia Mulder. I'm a YouTuber who does lefty history adjacent things on good occasion.
You're a Nebula producer who occasionally dips into YouTube.
I am a Nebula producer. Well, not producer. I'm a content creator. I'm not sure if I get in trouble if I call myself a producer. I don't think it matters, but
it's good to know you're feeling better.
Yeah, I keep getting sick over and over again. It sucks.
I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
But
how are you though? How are you doing?
Good.
My good friend.
It's not lost on us that Crusader Kings 3 came out and then you took three weeks no me on the stream. I understand. No, things have been good. We've had so much. There's been so much discourse to talk about.
Frankly, too much discourse.
Too much. I had a little note that came up because I was when I was at the cottage, I went on Twitter like 2 or 3 times to figure out what was going on, and I'll just tell you, I did like one random scroll of Twitter while I was hanging out by a lake reading. Actually, I was reading Axiom's Wake, which is funny. But here's the 4 things that came up in like my 5 minutes of scrolling that week. 1, there was a discourse about being against incest being a form of eugenics.
Of course, yes.
So if you are against incest, you support eugenics. Then there was a person who tried to cancel a Vice journalist for hear this out. He tried to get his money back for a Airbnb that he got because he left due to seeing evidence of what he considered satanic rituals in the house.
What?
And then tried to say that the Vice journalist covering this was racist for not taking it seriously. And this is the same guy who made this like really fake pro-Elizabeth Warren barbershop during the primaries.
What? How do I miss these things? Fake Elizabeth Warren barbershop.
Yeah, this happened during the primaries where like there was just like DVDs taped to the wall and stuff like that. So anyways, that happened, and then and yeah, he tried to blame it. He tried to say there was satanic stuff going on because there was like a Baphomet statue in the house, and I guess some weird figurine of a dog having sex with a woman or something. It was yeah, it was a whole thing. He was Elizabeth Warren staffer apparently. Then there was...
I mean, why not? This world is already wild enough as it is.
Then there was the nuclear fallout over possibly the most radioactive discourse that happened all month, which was about the Netflix film Cuties.
Oh god, yeah, even I could have missed that one.
And then the last one, the most important, attractive women are oppressive. I don't know if you missed this one.
Excuse me?
There was a take on the internet that women being too attractive on the internet makes gender non-conforming people it's oppressive to them. So that was like 5 minutes scrolling the internet on that week that I was at the cottage, are all the things that came up. And I was just like, okay, I'm turning this off right now and going back to reading and roasting marshmallows for a week.
Very good. Very smart. That is not discourse worth engaging with.
But just like, I was like, oh, that was the 1 week I was away from Twitter, and I was like, oh, that was what Twitter was, apparently. And then
truly a nightmare of a website.
Yeah, and then we've, of course, had the best takes ever of Ruth Conda Forever, which has been the meme over the weekend.
Yeah. Very interesting takes I've seen around that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about how... The legendary wonderful woman who not only attacked Colin Kaepernick for kneeling, but also determined that it is constitutional to build pipeline through indigenous territory.
Yeah, which I had no idea about.
Yeah.
Apparently, I had only heard the good stuff. Thankfully, I found out due to the discourse.
Yeah, America...
But also. The only thing I really saw that kind of fucked me up was not Ruth Conda Forever, but it was someone let me know about the existence of RBG, superhero figurines.
Yes,
like a superhero doll.
So
apparently that's a thing.
Yeah. I have. So there's this company that got famous for kickstarting a Bernie Sanders action figure, which I actually have because I actually kickstarted the Bernie Sanders action figure. But then once they made the action figure, and this was back in 2016, after the energy of that had sort of petered out, then I guess they were like, what do we do next? And they started asking people, and they just started going with like lib heroes and turned them into figurines. They made like Elizabeth Warren, and they made an RBG, and so yeah, that exists. Also, I got to see the full gamut of young girls who were forced by their mothers to dress up for Halloween as somebody they'd never heard of before. Because, as you know...
Sorry, what did you say?
There was a lot of spreading around of, like, little girls who were dressed up as RBG for their Halloween costume. Because we know that 6-year-olds notoriously... are very fascinated in the Supreme Court, and so
they're very into fundamental judicial policy.
Yeah, so there was that. It was like this was basically not like what 9/11 was for conservatives. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death was for liberals.
Oh, 100%. Although, like, it's not, we can't really understate also the fact that, like, things will also get worse now.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we can kind of hand to liberals. That like, yes, maybe we shouldn't worship this individual, but things will get worse now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost as if having an entire society structure focused on making sure that a 87-year-old woman with pancreatic cancer stays alive was not the most stable form of government.
It's almost like America is a fucked up country.
It's almost as if maybe they should have had something on the books that was a stronger protection of abortion, like, say, I don't know, a healthcare service or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was
Jesus Christ.
Also, somebody pointed out that there's an Easter egg relating to you in my Patreon feed.
Is there?
Yes.
I've been falling behind in my own Patreon feed.
Or not Patreon feed, sorry, in like the Patreon scroll in my videos this month.
Oh yes, I've noticed that. Thank you very much. Hashtag Mia Mulder.
Because there's a wall of Mia Mulders in the chat.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what the chat's talking about.
I've seen that. I think one of my fans let me know about that. You're so kind, such a good friend.
I just like when I was because when I was adding you to the list, I was like, well, I can't just add one Mia Mulder. That would be insufficient. I was thinking of having it like at one point. I was like, it would be kind of mean to the patrons if it was like if there was just one video where it was all Mia Mulders. But okay.
If you make like an extra video 1 month, that doesn't count.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so I got a question here that says the Supreme Court did the Supreme Court have lose popular legitimacy in the 1930, i.e. the last time the U.S. flirted with fascism? Okay.
Like since?
I guess.
Or.
Okay, so my thing is like, did the Supreme Court lose its popular legitimacy in the 1930s, the last time the U.S. flirted with fascism? So there's like, yeah, there's like this, idea that the So what happened was, in the 1930s, the loss of popular legitimacy in the Supreme Court was for a very different reason, which was that FDR was trying to, resuscitate the economy during the Depression. And because before FDR, approximately, like, 150% of presidents since the Civil War had been Republican. It was a very, very conservative Supreme Court. And so they kept striking down every single attempt to do anything that involved flexible monetary policy in order to, revitalize a dead economy. And so FDR threatened to just like add a bunch of Supreme Court justices and force retirements and stuff like that until he could get the New Deal through, in which they quickly acquiesced, which I don't know if that was America flirting with fascism at that point. That was sort of them. That was sort of just a stopgap to like legislation that was literally like required to keep America from just like crashing and burning even harder than it already had.
Yeah, I feel like America hasn't been closer to meddling with fascism than it is today.
It's true. I mean, there was the business plot in the 30s, but it's also debated about whether or not that actually happened. Definitely fodder for a future video, but
oh yeah.
Isn't
that the weird thing with like, I don't know super much. Isn't that the weird thing about like 10 rich businessmen in like Oregon or something that we're gonna like overthrow the U.S. government?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you're right. There's never been a point in American history, even in the 30s, where they've been closer to fascism than they were today.
Yeah, like it would depend on like how you would measure support for the American Silver League, but they were never that popular.
Yeah, like the biggest like fascist organization in America would probably have been the German American Bund, which had its high point when they had a Madison Square Garden event that I think drew out like 100,000 people. But like it was very quickly like, surprisingly, this was a thing that they did back in the 30s that they don't do today. The police were not fans of the German American Bund, and so they actively tried to take it down, and so the police responded to the threat. I know. That's not really a thing that happens anymore, but
yeah, the cops being anti-Nazi is Thing of the past.
So that was life. That was a thing. So like I like to compare, like, thing is, like, America was actually a little bit more anti-Nazi than they are today. Okay, Phoebe,
Yeah.
you can't just swipe at my cable.
Yes, she can, because she's a good girl.
She has before we moved in together, she apparently was responsible for Kelly having to replace the power cord on her laptop like multiple times. Phoebe likes to chew on cables. She's actually, like, the thing is, like, she looks cute and sweet when you see her on stream. She's actually, like, one of the brattiest cats I've ever had.
She acts nice for the camera. The second it turns off,
oh yeah,
the drama ends.
You should see, like I said, she gets fed around 5 o'clock. So starting at about 4 o'clock, she just will sit on my desk between me and the screen and just stare at me for a full hour. And she's very much like let's climb on the counter, let's stick our face in food, she's very much that kind of a cat. And she's also one of those cats where if she's not getting sufficient attention, things will start getting knocked off of, say, surfaces.
Yeah. Sorry, she just, like, sniffed the camera in the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, that's her superpower, is that she's extremely cute, and it lets her get away with this stuff. Because right now she's she's headbutting my monitor. She's between me and the chat window. Let's keep this going, I guess. So yeah, Supreme Court fascism.
Yeah, America is quickly falling into a deeply unsustainable and irreversible path of authoritarianism.
Yeah, like, I mean, even without Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like, even if she stayed on the bench, like, the what's it called? The Supreme Court was lost to the right when Kennedy retired. This is just making it even deeper and more solidified.
Oh yeah. I think one reason a lot of people are, like, really reacting to it is because, like, a lot of people expect Trump to just completely fuck up the election and sort of hoped that the Supreme Court would be some sort of barrier against it. And now it's just like, that's not happening. No,
especially because Gorsuch kind of turned out to be a little less horrible than we expected him to be, which is, I mean, it's still bad. It's still, like, now the court is still extremely conservative. Somebody pointed out that, like, most of the Supreme Court has now been appointed by presidents that lost the popular vote.
Lovely. What a wonderful democracy you have there, America.
Yeah, so that's a thing.
Yeah.
And on top of that, also, like, Trump's, okay, this is going to come out wrong, so I have to be very careful with my wording. Trump's Supreme Court justices, his choices, have been surprisingly tame given Trump. That they seem like exactly the kind of Supreme Court justices that if any other Republican had won the election would have been the exact same. It's the same list of wanted Supreme Court justices from the Heritage Foundation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
That's what I would say on that front.
Maybe it's some sort of, like, reconciliation thing with the rest of the Republican Party. It's sort of like trying to gather the party in preparation for the election.
Yeah, like, we haven't had Supreme Court Justice, I don't know, like, Dog the Bounty Hunter yet or anything like that.
I'm just waiting until, like, the Chief Justice is actually Trump himself. Is there a law that says you can't be president and Supreme Court Justice at the same time?
I don't think so, but I also remember that Trump, because so here's, like, my, like, secret suspicion. So they're saying that he's going to try and float a candidate this week, and said that it's most likely going to be a woman. And there's one thing that we haven't talked about too much, which is that Donald Trump's sister is a judge. And
he does have a history. He does have a history of like extreme like nepotism.
Yeah, and
Isn't
in the law of 2020, where the most ridiculous and horrible thing happens, that would be
Why not?
yeah.
Dynasty time.
This is going to be great.
God.
Luckily, she's also very old, so that at least limits. Although, as we learned, Ruth Bader Ginsburg lived forever, so
Yeah.
All right, why don't people like Mitch McConnell or like half or soon to be 2/3 of the Supreme Court worry that they're about their decisions triggering popular uprisings? Is it just that they're supremely confident that the American police state will protect them no matter what?
I mean, partially yes, but also it is deeply ingrained within the American national idea that America is whatever America does, it is in the name of freedom and democracy. It doesn't matter what America does. It is deeply ingrained into the American sort of mindset that to be American is to be free and democratic. So it doesn't matter what people do.
Mm-hmm.
Like if half of the things that happen in America would happen in like a South American country, America would be cooing that country like on the regular.
Yeah, the U.S. is a very thoroughly propagandized country, and the Republicans know that they speak with like at least a critical amount of people, that they can just sort of like get away with it because at least 40% or 45% and the 45% that have all the guns are the ones that support what they do.
Yeah.
I was just talking to one of my friends from Kentucky last night, and we were just like, how the fuck does your state keep electing this person that literally everybody hates? And she was just like, it's just party loyalty. It's nothing else. They like, even people in Kentucky don't really like Mitch McConnell that much. It's just that they keep reelecting him because he's the R.
Yeah, he has an R next to his name, and that means that they vote for him.
Yeah, like they'll be...
Again,
like,
very good democratic political system you have. Amazing.
Political historians are going to be writing, like years from now, books about how Mitch McConnell short-circuited and is almost single-handedly like the evil genius that ruined congressional politics in America. Like, I don't know, we haven't given a whole lot of attention to how profoundly evil Mitch McConnell is.
Oh yeah,
and he's a genius because he's the politician who has seen all of the holes and all of the structural weaknesses in America and how much is just being held up by like norms and decorum, and just said, if you completely ignore those, you can do so much. And that's why he was basically driving the Obama administration while not being in power. Like, he was able to stop Obama from doing very much during his term where he had a supermajority in both parts of the House.
Yeah.
Like, and basically controlled, like stopped pretty much anything Obama wanted to do his entire, like, 3/4 of his presidency.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. I should make a video about Mitch McConnell. That's important. I gotta get on that history wagon before, Anyways.
Before history ends.
Yeah. And also, like, the other thing, too, is that America hasn't really had a whole lot of, like, revolutionary political violence since the late 18th century. So
yeah,
they really, like, they've been so stable. Like, it's such an old republic that, like, it'd be very hard to imagine a legit uprising in the United States. This is probably the most... Or at least, and especially if you're a wealthy politician in the political class who lives in the Beltway and only follows mainstream news, you wouldn't think that America is on the precipice like it is right now. But, that's where we're at.
Yeah. But that's a good point that you make, that like America hasn't really... Compared to a lot of other countries, America is in this position where political violence on an actual grand scale is not something that America is used to.
Yeah, because like America wasn't in Europe during the 20th, isn't in Europe, and during the 20th century, like a lot of European countries had to deal with political uprisings, or even the threat of it. Like Sweden didn't really have like a communist revolution, but you were right next door to several. So
yes. Whereas America has just been like seeing things from afar and thinking itself unique.
Yeah. And so, like, yeah, it's that aspect of it has led to America having a kind of really weird, singularly, like, still thinking with, like, late 18th century political ideals in the 21st century somehow. And Canada's not too much different, I won't lie. We're probably about to elect the thumb Aaron O'Toole this fall if they push for an election. And
the thumb.
And we all know that the best thing that you can do during economic downturn is electing a conservative, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, historically, conservatives fix the economy, as graphs show.
Yeah. The 1937 double recession that happened during the Depression, the second the Republicans got elected, had nothing to do with the fact that conservatives took power.
None at all. Don't think about that.
Then I got a bunch of Mia Mulders. Someone said, I am also Mia Mulder. And then someone said, we are all Mia Mulder.
Yeah.
Queen Mia into house. So you can see you're a mist.
I feel loved.
I keep having to refresh and just hear about a dog having sex with a woman. Listen. You know what you signed up for when you decided to click on twitch.gov/stepbackhistory. Or what's the government highest level domain for Sweden? Is it SW or is it something else?
I think it's SE.
SE?
And I think that's all we have. I don't think we have I think a .gov is a very like American thing. I think we just have SE for everything.
Yeah, same with us. We just got .ca and that's it.
Yeah.
All right, when are you packing the Supreme Court? Why aren't you packing the Supreme Court now? Why are you talking to us when you could be packing the Supreme Court now? If Biden wins, do we need to make it so that so that's what it's like every time he talks to a remotely progressive journalist for the next 4 years? I mean, hopefully Joe Biden is going, if he wins, that he will be constantly harassed nonstop by the left, because maybe, hopefully, this is me closing my eyes and crossing my fingers, that there's now like sort of a critical point of actual left-wing activism, that if Biden gets elected, that it won't be like in 2008 where all seemingly left-wing voices just went completely silent. Which is,
I mean, American leftism now is also like far more radical outside of the Democratic Party establishment, right? So I think that's a good thing to expect.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, progressives keep getting elected in primaries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It seems
there's
weird.
Clearly a hunger for it.
It's so weird that everyone says the popular will was against Bernie Sanders, but then like all of these local races, these like super left-wing like progressives keep winning over these extremely well-financed centrists. It's almost as if there was some skeezy shit going on.
It's almost as if some fuckery is afoot.
But yeah, like so yeah, I hope that dealing with the Supreme Court, like I think that there was like an article that was about that the Democrats are going to quote unquote go to war if Trump pushes through a Supreme Court nominee before the election. But like I also am very much with the Democrats, like I'll believe it when I see it type stuff. People keep speculating the Democrats are going to do intelligent things when they have power, and I have yet to see that.
Yeah.
Talk about like making like actually giving Puerto Rico statehood and giving DC statehood when like, yeah, I'll believe when I see it. The Democrats could do it because it is possibly one of the easiest things that the Democrats could do to give themselves more power. But they involve having to do something. They don't like doing that.
No. It means setting their own rules, which they never do.
Yeah, like there's a really great book called We Need to Play Dirty, which is like this list of like things that the Democrats could do that are similar to what the Republicans did to solidify their rule. And in many ways, it would be stuff that is literally just creating something closer to majority rule in the United States. But They haven't done it. Like one, splitting California into 5 states, because it's in the state constitution of California that it can be split up into as many as 5 states if they wanted to. Texas has something like that too, because they were both hastily made into states that were, and they were absolutely huge geographically. So they had to be like, all right, so someday if we want to break up these states to make it make more sense, we can do that. California's got that, and if you broke it up into 5 states, that's already 8 more senators for state right now that is more populous than the entirety of Canada. And
yeah, California's way too big.
And so maybe, and also the Electoral College would also adjust for such. So that maybe somebody voting in LA wouldn't have their vote worth 1/600th of a vote from Wyoming.
Yeah. God, the fact that you still have this, the fact that America still has a Senate is like the wildest shit.
Yeah, Canada has a Senate too. It's just we don't draw a lot of attention to it because they don't. It doesn't work like in America, and they're not elected, and they don't propose legislation. They can just send something back for revisions.
Let's see. We dissolved our chamber our second chamber in 1971. So like in the 70s, we dissolved it.
Yeah.
And it was already pretty useless.
Canada's Senate is also pretty useless. It's now mostly a retirement home for elder statesmen. So it's
that's what we call the ambassadorship to Iceland.
Yeah.
Not a joke.
Just like, yeah, because unlike in the U.S., the Canadian Senate can't introduce legislation. Like I said, it basically is like a bunch of old fucks who take what comes out of Parliament and decide whether or not to give it a rubber stamp, or to send it back and say we want some changes. But that's about it. Okay, and yeah, like, and it's also a mess because it's not like in the U.S. where it's like 2 from every province or anything like that. It's like a certain percentage of them have to be from Quebec because rules. Because what's it called? There's no like what's it called? Quebec has a bunch of special status stuff in our politics because it's like a different country within our country. Stuff like, yeah, like they can also opt out of the Supreme Court or opt out of the Constitution when they want to as well, which is a little weird.
When they want to.
At which point do you just consider yourself a different country? I don't know.
I mean, countries are fake anyway.
It's true. Is it possible to be mad at RBG for not retiring 10 years ago? A little bit. I mean, you can't be mad at her now because she is no longer alive, but you can definitely be mad that, like, she just, like, assumed that, like, there's this sort of thing, and this sort of comes up with, like, the way that a lot of people, a lot of liberals think about politics, which is, like, once they're in power, they seem to think that they'll just be in power forever. And so she held off because she wanted to be, like, the longest-serving Supreme Court justice or something like that. But then didn't realize that maybe the Democrats might not be in power by then.
Yeah.
Also, Supreme Court justices tend to see themselves as, like, not partisan. That, like, you know, it's, like, a thing. Although, RBG hanging on as long as she did when she had, like, pancreatic cancer might be an example of, like, trying, like, putting a little bit of politics into it.
Yeah.
Because they're just supposed to be impartial interpreters of the Constitution.
Yeah, which they never are. They've never been.
No. All right. Let's see. I feel like the obsession with mixing liberal figureheads like RBG, Obama, etc. with superheroes speaks to the liberal view of superhero stories, especially in the MCU, i.e., the system always works, trust the police to process the bad guys properly, government is only wrong because of bad people being in charge, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty good answer.
I always find, what I always find most frustrating about the superhero stories is, like, Captain America Civil War pissed me off quite a bit because, like, it was literally like, okay, here's the plot of Captain America Civil War, and this is, like, the most, like, think about how this would appear, for all of you Americans in the audience, how this would appear to non-Americans. So, Hulk, the American scientist turned giant green monster, just, like, goes to a city in West Africa and utterly fucks up the place, like destroys an entire city. And then to stop him, the U.S., like a bunch of Americans come out with their super weapons and further destroy the city in order to get the American weapon to calm the fuck down and go home. And then they just like destroyed the city. And then, not to mention, in order to quote unquote save the world, they destroyed an entire city like not even a year ago at that point.
Yeah.
And so the UN gets together and is like, hey, if there's going to be like, you know, super like these people who can destroy entire cities, maybe there should be some regulation on that. And Captain America, literally Captain America, goes fucking apeshit and goes to war against the whole world because he's mad that the world might want to put some regulation on all of these Americans destroying things. Like, think about how the world might want to think about that.
I just remember some video essay that I don't specifically remember who, talking about this Civil War movie, talking about like how it presents this sort of dichotomy, or like this like dual version of the superhero world, where one is like individualism versus authoritarianism, or like individualism versus like structural organization, sort of. Like, do you trust the system or do you trust yourself? And then promptly ignores any conclusion of those questions, just so that they can have a fist fight between the two heroes.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually go anywhere with its philosophical ideas. It just sort of presents them and be like, hey, it's a thing. Especially considering the movie ends with like both sides are right, actually. No one's wrong.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
It made a little bit more sense when it was a comic book, because a comic book, it was the United States was doing this. And it was like about the United States figuring out what to do about superheroes. But when you do it and you put the world and you make the world involved, it's all of a sudden like, oh, this is a talk about American exceptionalism and American adventurism abroad, and its conclusion is that it's generally good. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think about like, do you remember did you ever see Team America World Police?
No.
Oh, probably doesn't age super great, but it was a pretty hilarious like it was supposed to be about like American special ops forces, but it's like done like Thunderbirds or something like that, like with marionettes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like every time they go to a non-American country, they like, first of all, they define it by how far away it is from the United States, and then like they'll go to like Egypt and stuff, and all of the major things that an American would think of as Egypt are all like within a block of each other, and in trying to stop like one terrorist, they like destroy all of them. It's a parody of the way that American action movies think about the rest of the world. It's actually like pretty clever.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on.
But it's also made by the South Park people, so it's like, oh god.
Oh, okay.
It's the South Park people taking the piss out of like George Bush era thoughts about like the world and terrorism and stuff like that. So there's at least that, but it was what it was.
It was what it was.
Okay. Comic Sans Mia Mulder. I don't know what that means.
No idea.
Okay. Let's see if we can find.
Do you think the Democrats, if they take the Senate and Biden wins, will actually pack the Supreme Court?
No.
No, me neither.
No,
we kind of touched on that.
The Democrats are way too. They still think, like Mitch McConnell learned that all of the things about norms and decorum don't actually matter, and power is the only thing that matters. But it seems that the powerful Democrats haven't actually figured that part out yet.
Yeah. And they see that as a bad thing, and they think they will win on going the other way, which is a bit of a weird idea, because they think they will win by not wanting power. They will gain the power by not wanting it, because life is a fantasy novel.
Yeah, they haven't quite figured out that the United States, that a lot of Americans are sort of fed up with this idea that you need to follow the rules, and that like everything, like if the process works the way it's intended, and that if you just follow things, everything will arc towards the right direction. And it's actually like, no, Americans have very dire things that they need right now, and following the rules has, if anything, taken us further away from the things that they need. And so some rules need to be broken for the right reasons now. And unfortunately, the people who are breaking all the rules are the fucking goblins and ghouls that are ruining everything.
Yeah.
And the people who supposedly want to help those people feel like they're trapped by the quote-unquote rules. Yeah, that's fun.
Very fun world we live in.
Yeah. What about Japanese internment during World War II? Yeah, that was pretty fucked up. It was bad, but I think, like, as your last video sort of pointed out, you have to make a distinction between things that are authoritarian and bad and fascist.
Yeah.
There is a definition of fascist that we probably should pay attention to, and that we spent too much time, I mean, I'm probably guilty of this too, we spent way too much time defining things that are authoritarian as fascist, as like sort of a snarl word. And now that fascism is actually here, we've sort of cried wolf a little too many times.
Yeah.
And now we can't. Now people aren't taking it seriously when it's actually happening.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
Wasn't Charles Lindbergh in America First pretty popular back in the day? Yes. Many alternate history novels say that Charles Lindbergh is the fascist president of America. Just like, the thing is about America is that back in that day, there was, like, to have, like, the actual fascist mentality was not so much, like okay, the German-American Bund was probably the best example in America of, like, an actual capital F fascist movement and a capital N Nazi movement that actually wanted Adolf Hitler to be, like, actually liked Adolf Hitler and actually liked fascism.
Yeah.
And were in actual cahoots with the Nazi Party until the Nazi Party got embarrassed by them.
Yes, because they were the nerdiest fucking nerds in the world.
Yeah.
Fun story about that, by the way. Apparently, the leader of the German-American Bund, like, took all the money that they had, but because they were organized around the Führerprinzip, that the Nazis are, basically that what the leader does is the good thing. No one did anything about it.
Lovely.
So the leader of this, like, fascist organization just took all the money and ran, and everyone was just like,
is that why this keeps happening in, like, the far right? Because, like, the far right, I hear this a lot of far right groups end up breaking up because the leader just fucks off with all the money.
Yeah, probably. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you know, if your ideology is based around following one authoritarian leader, then if that one authoritarian leader doesn't do what you want, then sucks.
And someone just pointed out one of the most talking about Coughlin is also pretty good to mention, that there was, like, a anti-Semitic, pretty pro-fascist radio host who was also pretty popular at the time. And yeah, what's it called? I wouldn't say that America, like, it did, like, that fascism didn't resonate with America, but, like, an organized, like, actually, like, encroaching fascist movement, like, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Like the America First movement was, like, could have become a fascist movement. It was probably proto-fascist, but, like, it didn't have that leader. It didn't really rise to, like, the levels of power that would have needed to, like what's happening right now.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely, like, the potential of it could happen. Like as you said, like, the sort of the fascist mindset could definitely have taken hold. But you didn't really see the sort of organized de facto fascism in the sense that you have seen elsewhere in the world or today.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. The alternate history book where the English evacuate to India after an asteroid triggers an Earth ice age. There's a bit where you see Benjamin Disraeli trying to solve the problem by trying to import grain from Australia. Am I right in thinking that IRL and 19th century Tory PM would probably just opt to let the poor starve in a situation like that rather than do rationing or whatever? I mean, yes, because there was a 20th century Tory PM that did that exact thing.
Yeah.
And to this day, British people still fucking worship him. The current Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is literally a super fan of the person who committed like one of the worst acts of mass murder in the 20th century. To the point where he collects his memorabilia and wrote a biography of him. That doesn't get talked about enough, about the fact that like Bojo is like one of the hugest stands for Winston Churchill.
Yeah. I remember when there was like a statue fest with the protests a few months back. There was a lot of people who were criticizing like statues of Churchill, and Bojo would just start defending weird shit. Bojo has a lot of weird relationship to the British colonial history. I don't think he really wants to think about that too much.
Yeah. Oh boy. Someone said Trump is a sister. Yes, and she is a judge in New York. All right. Mitch McConnell needs to retire. Yeah, there is like some happiness to be taken in the fact that Mitch McConnell is like 1,000 years old.
Yeah, but he's also like very powerful.
It's true.
And that means he's going to basically live forever.
All right. Yeah, we all know that the more evil you are, the more long you live. It's called the Kissinger principle.
Yeah, I was gonna say Palpatine principle, but yeah, works the same. Same.
Kissinger, Palpatine, they're pretty much the same. I wouldn't be surprised because given like the politics of George Lucas back then, that like Palpatine and Henry Kissinger might be some inspiration there.
Maybe.
If we do end up going to Mars, do you think we might end up being a publicity stunt that we do like 2 or 3 times like the moon?
I feel like once we start going to Mars, like once we have the technology to do that, I think capitalism is gonna be like, hey, we can maybe mine asteroids for super cheap. We don't have to think about it that much. We don't have to think about ethics this time. We can exploit the universe as much as we want because no one lives there. And then I think that's going to become a thing. But I think Mars might be abandoned pretty quickly.
Yeah, like the thing about Mars is kind of the issue of like space exploration in general. And so like I could see us having the technology to send a human being to Mars and back and survive being developed before we find a way to economically get out of Earth's gravity well and Mars's gravity well with like, enough to like, because right now it costs like the big thing that's causing capitalism from doing a space is that it costs $10,000 a kilogram to send something into space. And when we break that, when that goes down, that's when we'll have all the space, the asteroid mining and stuff like that. So I could see humans going to Mars, and just like with the moon, we just like there's no economic reason to go back and do anything permanent, and we just don't go back for a while until we figure out how to space elevator or some sort of way to get person into space that doesn't cost billions of dollars.
Yeah.
We can get that down to even like a few $100,000. You can start sending like indentured servants into space. And that'll be
They're called volunteers, Tristan. They're called Tesla employees.
Yeah.
Not SpaceX. I fully imagined them as Tesla employees. Different company, but still.
If it costs like $750,000 to go to Mars, Tesla is totally gonna have a thing where like, all right, you can go to Mars. Like, we'll pay for you to go to Mars for free, and you just have to work until you pay off your debt for the way over. And it's like it'll take you about 7 years if you survive. And it's like, wait a minute.
They're gonna make a deal with like American for-profit prisons, right?
Oh yeah, of course they got to get rid of all the undesirables too, and they're just gonna do it. They're just gonna do a thing again. They're just gonna do. They're just gonna do a. I guess they just want to do the 16th century again.
Yeah, and transportation becomes a thing.
Or I guess for America it was the 17th century, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What if you gave Mitch McConnell magic truth serum and asked him, do you want to run the U.S. as a strongman dictator?
Sorry, what?
If you gave Mitch McConnell truth serum and asked him if he wanted to be a dictator, do you think he would say yes?
No, but I think that's the wrong question, because I think he wants to live in a U.S. that is led by a strongman dictator. I just don't think that he wants to be the strongman dictator.
I would imagine that he doesn't.
I think he wants to be like the power behind the throne sort of thing.
Yeah. I could imagine, yeah, because otherwise he would have tried to run for president or something.
Yeah.
I think Mitch McConnell doesn't even think that what he's doing is evil or what he's doing is authoritarian. He just wants, like, he has a bunch of policy things that he wants to have happen, and he knows that, like, you know, banning abortion would be a big victory for the conservative cause and things like that. And he's like, I think that he is just a very conservative person with no moral scruples and an ends justifies the means mentality. That was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that I would think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, like, the thing is, very few people, when you, like, put a gun to their head, think that they are an evil person or that they are that they are authoritarian. Like, it's very, unless you're, like, for some reason the dictator of Belarus, nobody really says I'm an authoritarian, which is a thing that the president of Belarus has said.
I'm not surprised.
He's literally been like, yeah, I just have a very authoritarian ruling style.
And that's his choice, and he's asking us to respect it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is another thing that came up on the internet that would be fun. Have you heard about 1 billion Americans?
No. Is this some sort of, like, counter to the Great Replacement theory?
No, it's a book written by a friend of the show, Matthew Iglesias, who's one of the co-founders and chief editors of Vox Media.
Okay.
And it's basically this, it's like this YIMBY concept that, like, hey, what if we developed the rest of America, like all of the interior of America, we could have the space to have 1 billion Americans, and we would be, like, the most powerful country and no one would be able to stop us. And it's like, and he's touring for this book right now, and everyone is like, this is the dumbest idea ever. It's like, especially like the part where apparently the book still assumes that somehow a country that has 1 billion Americans would still have people driving cars. Like, yeah, there'll be issues with traffic and stuff. It's like, bruh. Or the idea that, like, in order to have 1 billion Americans, he wants to build cities where all of the farms are. Which, like, I have some questions for you.
Why?
This guy's so,
why does Vox Media always come out like this?
I don't know. This is like a bigger mask slip than usual. But yeah, Vox is run by 2 very rich children of rich people who have never known any sort of hardship ever in their entire lives, but are very convinced that they know what's going on and that they are the most intelligent people who have ever graced this earth. So when being a cheerleader for the Iraq War got tired for him, Matt Iglesias then became like a housing and development guy, fancying himself a wonk. And now he posts things like 1 billion Americans.
Oh my god!
And he went on Glenn Beck's show.
I need to see the cover of this book. 1 billion Americans. Oh my god. The case for Thinking bigger. A progressive vision to make America great. Oh my god.
It's the worst. Like, it's just like people were calling Joe Biden supporters like Matt Iglesias like Blue MAGA, and he's like, what if Blue MAGA?
What the fuck is this?
The
path to ensure American greatness.
I'm
Good
sorry.
Start. And preeminence. Yeah, what?
All I gotta say is, we do this stream every Monday, and then throughout the week, like, you tweet about, like, having, like, rough times emotionally during the week, and I'm like, I think that Monday is doing this to you. I think that the psychic damage is causing...
It's causing me, like, severe brain damage to just read about these complete clown people.
Man, I wish that was on the jacket of the book. These complete clown people. That's the best description of Vox ever. And the best part is...
I need to contact their publisher and be like, can I put a blurb on the back of the book? Please, God.
So there's a really great call-out of Matt Iglesias this morning by fucking the champ, Carlos Maza, who, for those who don't know, worked for Vox up until about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because he gave him shit for going on Glenn Beck's show to promote his book.
Isn't Glenn Beck, like, super fucking weird now?
Yeah, he has...
Why would you go on his show?
I don't know.
Sorry, I'm just adding 1 billion Americans to my video idea list.
It's
1 billion Americans debunk video. Thank you!
That feels very much like something that you should do.
Oh, I agree. I want to have, like, a 2-hour-long thing just destroying this book, because I already hate it.
Just like how I hate myself and all of you in the audience, and so one of my plans is to read Rodham and talk about it.
Yes! Oh my god, I'm so happy. I can't wait to see this.
I have to read Rodham, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is an alternate history novel written by a liberal, where if Hillary Clinton didn't marry Bill Clinton and went into politics on her own and basically becomes president, and they live out their West Wing fantasy of President Hillary Clinton, which also happened in a book I read earlier this year called An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, which is like the Hank Green science fiction novel features a woman president with a slightly Hillary Clinton-esque affect.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I like Hank generally, but
it was just...
I feel like Hank is aware enough to do that without it being too cringy.
That's true.
Potentially, I'm not sure. I need to read Hank's stuff.
It's a decent novel. It's very much a YA novel, but besides that, you get into it pretty quick. Alchemy, what it have done to the medieval economy if someone really figured out a way to make gold out of thin air. Oh.
Gold would become useless.
Yeah.
But some other material would become gold.
Yeah, like there's a good case study of this, which is there was this time where Spain discovered this place called Bolivia, and then found out that there's like, I don't know if you guys know this secret about Bolivia, but it's basically made of silver. And they just like mined out like tons and tons of silver and used it to fund tons of wars. Like, for some reason, Spain was like, you know what I'm going to use this money for? I'm going to conquer the Netherlands. And this is why, if you ever study like 1500s, 1600s Netherlands, you have to learn Spanish because to read all of their newspapers that came out in Spanish. Or sorry, Castilian at that point.
Yeah, I suppose.
So there's that. So Bolivia, what it did is it caused silver to completely crash in value because they basically flooded the global market with silver. Then the Spanish crown went completely bankrupt, and then they decided like, our two plans of growing our empire through massive inflation and inbreeding just doesn't seem to be a stable way to run.
It doesn't work.
The von Habsburgs, they're like, we tried all of the ways to conquer the world. We tried massive inflation, we tried inbreeding, and nothing seems to create a stable empire.
It's the only ways.
The Habsburgs crawled so that we could walk.
Christ.
Is the Canadian Senate comparable to the House of Lords? It's modeled off the House of Lords, but they're appointed by the Prime Minister. They're not I think in the UK, the House of Lords is like partially hereditary and partially not.
Yeah, it depends on the type of lord.
Yeah.
You can be an hereditary lord.
Alrighty,
But you can also be appointed a lord.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna be. Sorry, I have to run to the washroom real quick, so I'll be right back. So please, entertain the masses.
Oh hell yeah! It's me a multi-stream now.
Yeah, let me see if I can get a full screen for you. Yeah, this should work. All right, I'll be right back.
Hey. I'm not used to having the entire screen to myself. Apparently I'm streaming now, but I'm not my own channel. I have no idea what to do. I've completely lost faith. I'm gonna check the most recent chat because I know Tristan's gonna check the chat where we were, because he's got some thing. I don't know. How are you doing? It's my stream now. Synthetic diamonds are being made, but very rarely. Yeah, I don't think it's like worth it to flood the diamond market just yet, because I think making synthetic diamonds is still like too expensive. Like it works industrially, but it doesn't work like cosmetically. I think you can do it, but the entire diamond industry has decided to just artificially inflate the price of diamonds, and has now shifted marketing to be like authentic diamonds, mined by children. It's a Crusader Kings 3 time. It's not Crusader Kings 3 time. Maybe tomorrow. Submitted my master's dissertation. Hope it was good. Well, congratulations. De Beers mines control the price of diamonds. Yes. If someone can come up with a way to like mass produce diamonds that work aesthetically and not just industrially at a price that is competitive with De Beers, then I think that can work. But as it stands right now, the diamond industry is just too powerful. Thank you. We are going through this. We sure are. I've had a good weekend. Is Tristan back? I've completely lost control of the stream, Tristan. Please help. Oh god.
I have returned.
Hello. I just went on a rant about the diamond industry.
Oh, how it's fake?
Oh yeah, definitely.
They have marginal value as an industrial item and manufactured value as a wedding ring item, and that they're super cheap, but De Beers keeps them, controls the supply. Yeah, that's all about accurate.
That reminds me, I gotta check out the Adam Ruins Everything episode on diamonds again. I need to rewatch that show. It's a good show.
I think that's one of his favorites. I know now that, as we've seen through the internet, I am now best friends with Adam Conover, because I was once in the same video as him.
And as we know, that's how best friendships work.
Yep, because you are responsible for everybody that your voice appears in the video with.
And because I know you, I am also best friends with Adam Conover.
Yeah, that's how it works. People have to realize how the internet functions. That we all know each other. We all have secret meetings.
I whole ass sometimes have people ask me about how Hanky Green is doing, a man who does not know that I exist.
Yeah, I mean,
and who I have never met.
I am like relatively well connected for somebody of a YouTuber of my size, but yeah, still, even then, I don't know what, like, for example, like for the one that I think that is not too surprising is like H. Bubber Guy's a mutual friend of both of us, and like it's hard to know what he's up to because you send him a text message or like a DM, and you may hear back from him within 10 to 12 business weeks.
That's yeah.
And then he doesn't like it. He feels bad. He always forgets. He forgets to check things. He tries so hard, but he lives in a shack in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, but we love him.
We love him nonetheless.
And we support him.
Mm-hmm.
We support his woodland goblin behavior.
Is the Canadian
He's a good boy. He's a good man.
I already answered the question about the Canadian Senate being comparable to the House of Lords, and the answer is a little bit. How is she going to predict Trump happening in 2010? I don't know what that's a reference to. How does the Canadian Supreme...
if Betty Ginsburg would resign in 2010, like, she couldn't predict that Trump would win. So why should she resign, I guess, is the thing.
I guess it was more just if you wanted a Democrat to choose your replacement, you probably should have done it during a Democratic president's second term, because they don't have a great track record of just having multiple presidencies in a row. How does the Canadian Supreme Court work? Does it work like America's? And the answer to that is, I wish I knew.
God, I have no idea how Sweden's Supreme Court works.
They, what's it called?
I have no idea.
They take the two possible outcomes. They make yes meatballs, and no, they make half of them are meatballs. That is the victor, the prosecution. The defendant is gefilte fish, and then you put them in the stew, and then you pull one out, and then whatever that one is becomes the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
listen, it's not a perfect system, but it works.
Do Swedes do gefilte fish?
No, I don't think so.
I think that's more of a Russian thing.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
It is an extremely Eastern European and extremely Jewish dish. It's basically meatballs, but they're made of fish.
The closest Swedish culture comes to Eastern European is Baltic culture, which is a very narrow slice of culture. But it exists.
I just thought, like, meatballs made of fish. How did the Swedes not invent this? Okay, let's see. All right, so I'm now caught up with my. So the thing is, I have a chat program that weaves the two chats together, but the problem is that like once there's too many chats in it, it starts deleting old ones, and so I have to like, once I start hitting that point, I have to like copy it over to a text file, and now I'm like caught up with the chat again. So I'm like, okay.
Okay, that's good.
It's a sad. I hate how comics. America. This is talk about Team America: World Police. That's the full name of that movie, by the way. Okay, and also that their headquarters is inside of Mount Rushmore, and like the president's heads open up for their like rockets to take off and their airplanes to leave and stuff. It's pretty great.
Interesting. Didn't Trump want to like hide something in Mount Rushmore?
No, he was in contact. Even better. It was even better. He was in contact with the governor of South Dakota to add himself to Mount Rushmore.
No.
Yep.
Jesus. Horrifying.
Does the right... Okay, this is a question for you. Does the right have to hold on government or the political culture of Sweden today? Does the right have a hold on government or political culture of Sweden?
Sort of, like a little bit, but I feel like it's important to say that our right wing is like it's like the Democrats. Our left wing is. I mean, yeah, the right have a hold on politics in Sweden in the sense of like, liberals right now are sort of in a kingmaker position where they can, if they choose the right wing, the right will have power. If they choose the left wing, the left will have power. And they chose the left because if they sided with the right, they would have to side with the Nazis, and they didn't want Nazis, so they preferred the left over Nazis, which is a good thing. Good on our liberals, and because of that, there is a sort of like extreme centrism right now in like Swedish politics, where it's like the extremes are very bad, but the right extreme is somehow less bad than the left extreme, because the right extreme at least doesn't want to abolish capitalism. So that's sort of our situation, I suppose.
Yeah, something that is
because our left party has it in the party policy to abolish capitalism, which pretty cool, gotta say.
Mm-hmm. So people were talking about the thing about sending prisoners to Mars, and I was just like, if you've ever seen Parks and Rec when they have their sister city that's from Venezuela, and it's like if you steal a car, right to space. If you play music too loud, space. If you charge too much for glasses, right to space.
Right to space. I haven't seen Parks and Rec.
Oh, that's a pretty fun show. Except now
I hear good things.
Yeah, it's a fun watch that you should do sometime. All right, there's a question. Ooh, is Doctor Who worth watching, and where should you start? Oh boy.
I kind of like some of the reboots. I like David Tennant in the first one from the reboot.
Chris Eccleston.
I like Chris Eccleston and David Tennant. Beyond that, I don't care. I lost interest.
See, the thing is, I actually really liked Matt Smith. The step back jacket actually was a 11th Doctor costume. What I would say,
I'm sure he's great. I just didn't connect with him that much.
Yeah. So I can say there's a couple things. There's a few points to get on. The most common one to get on would definitely be with the 2005 reboot. That's probably the smartest place to get started because it's modern and more accessible. If you can find like a list or something like that has skippable episodes that don't play into the bigger story and are kind of bad, because every single one of them, less in some seasons, but in all seasons there are kind of like bad episodes. But yeah, there's a lot of episodes that are like okay.
There's one episode specifically that everyone agrees is super bad, where some sort of monster that absorbs people's faces into itself.
Oh boy,
it's so bad.
Yeah, I would say that the beginning is like good, fun, like Monster of the Week writing with like some pretty great actors who are kind of holding the show up. Then it goes into a second phase where it gets run by the guy who made Sherlock, in which the show gets a little bit too clever for its own good and fails as a, like, when you get into the Moffat era, the show kind of gets a little pretentious and just like the writing just gets more snappy and British, but less like good. There's more funny one-liners, but there's less like good stories. So if you like shows for like that, then you can have fun with that. Then they go through they get lost in the woods for a couple seasons when they decide to get Peter Capaldi as the Doctor for some reason, who is the Scottish man who yells at people from what was that British TV show about, like being like, he plays like a party minister or something like that, and he just like swears in Scottish at people, which I think is just the Scottish language. Anyways, so they do that for a couple seasons, and then he bows out, and basically the Moffat era ended 2 seasons ago. And I would say that the show's kind of going through a new good phase where they got... Did you ever watch the TV show... was it called... No, it wasn't called Churchill. It was called... oh my god, my brain is going to kill me. The creator of... What's it called? It was a mystery show that that was really good. And it had... it starred Olivia Colman and David Tennant.
Broadchurch.
Yeah, yes. So they had the writer of Broadchurch now is the person who writes Doctor Who. And now the Doctor's played by... what the hell's her name? She was on Broadchurch.
I know who you mean,
but I don't remember. She played the mom in Broadchurch. I'll get it in a second. Jodie Whittaker. So Jodie Whittaker is playing the Doctor now. And I would say that combination, while like the shitty fanboys hate it a lot, I actually think it's really good. And it does more good history. Like this show is definitely stronger when they're doing stuff from the past than when they're doing stuff in the future. but it's getting interesting, and I still think it's really good. For example, they did a video where one of the companions now is Pakistani, and they decide to go and solve solve a family secret from her past, which was happening right when the partition of India was happening. And it's this whole thing about like how horrible the partition of India was, because she lived like right on the border where like they were basically putting the line between India and Pakistan through their town and stuff like that, and like the rising hatreds that it was causing and everything like that. And it was really cool. Great episode. One of my favorite Doctor Who episodes ever. And then they did a whole episode with Nikola Tesla and what's his name, Thomas Edison, which is like good fodder. And yeah, so like I don't know, I think the show's really good right now, but also the fanboys hate it, so it's not getting as much attention as it used to.
Yeah, because it's a woman.
Yeah, because
women can't be the Doctor.
Women's can't doctor. And so now that that's happening, they're going through that, and at some point if you watch all of that and you're like, I still want more, then you've got to be really picky, because the old show was very low budget and very campy and very hard to watch. And so really you got to be really into it before you decide, I'm going to go watch, the Aztecs, the first arc from the first Doctor, and it's like in black and white, and a British science fiction show from 1963.
It's a very different show. You
have to commit.
Yeah.
Because like
Torchwood's fun though. I like Torchwood.
I actually have never seen Torchwood. I probably should.
It's pretty good. It's a spin-off from, I think, Tennant's era Doctor Who.
The other thing about the new stuff is that they did a whole season where they were like, we're doing no references. Everything's going to be new and cool, which was fun for one season. Then now we're going to experiment with bringing stuff back, and they went all right back to Tennant era stuff. So they've got those. Like they have a big episode with the Rhino people, the Rhino cops, and some other stuff like that. And and also they got John Barrowman to come back for a couple episodes, who's always fun.
That's pretty cool. He's a fun guy.
Yeah. Do you think the Supreme Court might declare fetuses are people, so even blue states can't have abortion? The legal podcast guys are worried about... it's the legal podcast response zone, which worries me because they trust institutions more than we do. Yeah. What's it called? I definitely think that if the right court case comes before a very right-wing Supreme Court, that you could totally see some sort of really bad decision happening where abortion's illegal again, and then we go back to women, doing illegal abortions, which resulted in lots of them dying. Hopefully less of them will die because of science, but still, like, making abortions illegal is definitely going to be real bad for women's health.
Yep.
Just gotta say, all people who can have babies inside of them are going to be in danger by such a law.
Yep. I mean, abortion is like, it's a health issue, because if abortions aren't legal, they're still gonna happen.
Yeah. Why do you think the the Birth Control League was? Why do you think Margaret Sanger and Emma Goldman were arrested for several times in the 19-teens? Okay. And yeah, like the podcast guys, it's like, it'd be interesting how they go, because they'll be like, wait a minute, the rules are different now. The rules say bad thing, but the rules can't say bad thing. That's not how progress always goes to more good. Progress can't go towards more bad. Everything is linear.
Yeah, history is linear, right? It's a progress bar to up and better.
Progress bar to up and better. Perfect explanation. And so yeah, if Trump gets reelected and like we end up with like a really conservative Supreme Court, I'm like, I'm giving up hope that like the liberals will have their brains finally break, but maybe, I don't know.
I mean, if 4 years of Trump hasn't done it already.
That's true.
Like, I'm not sure what can.
I can't believe. The only thing I can think is that, hopefully, probably not, but hopefully, that the Joe Biden, if Joe Biden loses, that if there's any glint of hope that'll come out of that, is that the Democrats will learn once and for all that, like, this doubling down on trying to get in Reagan Democrats, a strategy that might have worked in the early 90s, doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Do you think that there exists a person that if you put a gun to their head and ask them, are you evil, they would say yes, and I think it's good? Like a person who knows their actions of evil but still does them anyway.
Oh, for sure. There are tons of people who do that shit.
That's probably like the way that like a lot of like CIA agents romanticize their own lives.
Yeah, like guaranteed. I feel like there are tons of professions, or like people who see themselves as doing an evil thing in the service of the greater good.
Yeah, bikers would think that. All I can think of is like that's like it's romanticized in fiction a lot. That's what like the whole turnaround on Section 31, which I'm like so mad about, had in Star Trek kind of did that. There's like, yeah, like doing or what's his name? Even Amos in freaking The Expanse is like, I'm a psychopath and I'm evil, but I'm going to do it for the good reasons. And it's like, oh, okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah, and I just feel like, people who, just rich people in general probably feel that way too. Like, actively withholding money to help poor people is probably something that they see, that they know is not like, well, it's not a good thing, but I gotta do it for the greater good of capitalism.
Yay. Okay, here's a tough one. Who's worse, Kipling or Lovecraft?
I don't know enough about Kipling.
He is the author of The Jungle Book, but also the poem The White Man's Burden.
All right. Oh, Kipling. Easy.
Yeah. He was
like Lovecraft was wild and racist, but Kipling, I feel, has done more in terms of to spread his own racism.
Yeah, this is definitely a would you rather from hell.
Yes.
A bunch of times I've heard you and other people praise the Islamic Golden Age for its religious tolerance. Wasn't that a feature of the Persian Empire long before Islam was ever a thing? Sure. And then the Islamic Empire said, I like that idea. And also, we have a bunch of Persians in our empire now and a bunch of Greek Orthodox people in our empire, so we should do that. I think that, I mean, like, I'm not going to say that, like, it was, like, some, like, uniquely amazing thing that only the Islamic Empire did, but it was, because it was just the reality of managing a humongous empire in a very religiously diverse region of the world. But, like, that happened in Europe, too, and they went, no, let's double down on burning people until everybody gets on the same page. From basically the introduction of Christianity to Europe until the Treaty of Westphalia, that was basically the going thing. And I would say that the Islamic Golden Age was definitely a period where it showed that if you have people of different faiths come together and work on common things, that you actually end up being a very strong and stable empire, like the Islamic Empire was. That's why it had a golden age. Because if you were a Muslim or a Zoroastrian or a Christian, you were not forcibly converted. You didn't have your communities burned to the ground and you weren't like shoved out of town. So there was like less chaos, and so people could just like, instead of like, oh no, I'm homeless and kicked out, now I'm like, no, I'm going to go to Baghdad and learn how to translate books. I'm going to translate the Republic into Arabic. And it's like, okay, that works. And then they were like, hey, we found out that Syrian Christians are really good at doing medicine. And instead of saying, well, that's heretical knowledge, so we need to burn all the books and burn them, they went, let's learn some Syrian medicine, boys. So see how that is like a workable solution. But like, yeah, it's totally not unique. That's also why the Persian Empire was so successful.
Mm. I feel like it's a feature. It's like attributing, like, we don't really attribute it to the Islamic Empire in that sense, but it's more that the Islamic Empire had the good sense of adopting that sort of policy. from other cultures, and being like, hey, this works, let's do that. Whereas Europe didn't and decided to tear itself apart with warfare for like 2,000 years.
Yeah, they decided to do Crusader Kings 2 for a whole millennium.
Christ.
Exactly. Did you? I'm sure you've seen stuff like this before, but did you? I saw this like thing that was like this runestone from the early Christian incursion into your part of the world, where like they gave they started worshiping Jesus by giving him like a spear, like the spear of destiny, and they like turned him into like a warrior god.
Yeah, they turned him into a sort of warrior deity to add to the rest of warrior deities that us pagans in the north had.
I love paganism. They're just like, I like that religion. I'm going to take that. I'm just going to take that, please.
And just the fact that it's like a pluralist religion too just makes it so much more funnier in the sense of like, I'm gonna believe in the Aesir. I'm also gonna believe in the Prophet, like that the Prophet Muhammad was correct. I'm also going to adopt Jesus as my Lord and Savior. All of these things at once. They are not. They, it's fine. I have 3 different versions of paradise I can get into now. I'm hedging my bets.
I think a lot of people thought that way back then. And I thought it was great.
Yeah. Why not? If I can't get into Valhalla, I can get into heaven.
Yeah, and there was actually like situations where like you could see like evidence of people even like as far as like the Middle Ages, like people being buried with multiple sets of funerary rites just so they can cover all their bases.
Yeah.
This is a question, Mia. Have you read anything by Alf Henriksen?
No.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either. Maybe, the name sounds hella familiar though.
Let's see.
Let's see who this person is.
I know Alf. Is it that? Is it Alf?
I think no. I think I may have read something that he's done. Let me see bibliography. See if I've read anything that he's done.
It's an alien that eats cats.
I don't think I've read anything from him. I think I probably encountered some of his work in grad school, but I haven't really.
Listen, in grad school, you quote unquote read a lot of books.
Yes.
You
remember maybe 3 of them.
Yeah. You get a lot of books that you have to talk about at a grad seminar tomorrow, and you have about 3 hours to juice for as much information as possible. Yeah, because like grad school, they'll be like, all right, so for next week's class, I want you to read this, this, and this, and it's like 3 books, and you're like, but I have 3 other classes, and they also want me to read 3 books, and they're like, yep. And because it's grad school, they can just be like, yeah, it's grad school, it's going to be hard. And it's like, but I like sleeping.
That's why you read the summaries like I did and bullshit your way through seminars.
Yeah, that's why you'll read the introduction, the conclusion, and the headings of all the chapters.
That's all you need.
Do you believe in the labor theory of value or the subjective theory of value?
I don't really have an opinion on the source of value.
Yeah, I tend to come from the labor theory of value because, like, you, if you think about the way capitalism functions, it makes more sense. Like, the price of things makes more sense if you think about the amount of human work that went into it. And like, obviously there's ways to manipulate that. Like, for example, diamonds. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive theories of value, for sure. And anybody who thinks that, like, any specific way, like, you can definitely make something more valuable than it is by adding subjective praise to it, like, say, anything Apple makes. But like, you also, like, looking at, like, the macro structures of capitalism, you can also see profit margins go down, or profit margins are always decreasing because we're able to make more and more product with less and less labor values per item, or labor time per item, and that means that it's getting harder and harder to make things profitable. All right. In a direct democracy, should people get to vote on more of an vote on an issue if they're more affected by it? That's how the culture's direct democracy works. So, like in a direct democracy, if there's like an issue that comes up, like say for example, the catapult TERFs into the sun bill. If we were to vote on should we catapult all the TERFs into the sun, should the votes of trans people and TERFs play a larger role than just like an average Joe? I don't know why that came up. I guess I was just thinking about J.K. Rowling.
It's a good example. It's good illustrative. I mean, my gut instinct says no, but I feel like there are many different ways to sort of structure a direct democracy that I feel this sort of method could be applied within. But as a universal rule, I think I would have to say, like, nah, I think that's a pretty shit deal, because someone has to decide who is impacted. Like, how do you decide who is impacted by an issue? Someone has to decide that. Who do you decide? Who decides that? And then we're back at just square one again.
Yeah. In my mind, a lot of these situations when you have like, oh, this direct democracy thing is going to affect this group of people who don't have as much voice more, that speaks to me that it's like, oh, then you're probably working in a command structure that's too big. Because if you're not making decisions, because like because I'm very much for like, let's keep like small Dunbar number level of like societies where people can like voluntarily hang out with each other and like give each other like make decisions on a small enough group where they have a general knowledge of everybody else who would be affected by it. Like I'm honestly for like the most powerful unit of government should be like you and like maybe like 100 other people. Or what's Dunbar's number? Let me remember what that is. Dunbar's number, for anybody who doesn't know, is the number of people that a human being can realistically maintain some form of familiarity with, and it's 150 people.
Yeah.
Which could be difficult, but I think that in many ways, when you're like abstracting people like that, then that means you've got too big of a system, because Tristan's an anarchist and likes very small decisions, so that if something is egregiously bad, you can leave because it's voluntary.
Yeah.
Could we have Bernie Sanders on the stream someday, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or Black Goat 666? And I was like, okay, one of these is not like the others.
One of these is possible.
Yeah, one of them, Black Goat 666, is a friend of mine and could be on a stream someday. Sure. Bernie Sanders is still one of the most prominent politicians in America, and to this date still the most popular politician in the United States. So that makes me think that, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of the most popular and prominent politicians in one of the most powerful countries in the most powerful country on earth, and that makes me think that they might be a little busy, especially right now.
Yeah, I think they have other things going on.
For me to realistically think of getting Bernie Sanders or AOC on a stream, they would have to probably, one, leave politics, and two, have been out of politics for quite a while.
Yeah.
Like if Bernie retires and then like 10 years from now when he's 90 fucking years old, then maybe.
Yeah.
But Bernie, yeah.
If AOC leaves politics and becomes a Twitch streamer to play League of Legends full time, then
she'll still be too famous for me then.
That's true. I just realized that. Yeah.
So to say,
we won't be able to pull that.
Chelsea Manning left being a political prisoner and became a Twitch streamer and is now more famous than I'll ever be. She is now more powerful. Her power cannot be contained. Why do we have any moral obligation to microscopic alien bacteria that have no consciousness whatsoever? Okay, so this is an angry question. This is an angry comment focused at my recent video. So I basically I said in the video, like, hey, what if like we go to Mars and we start colonizing it, and in doing so we bring all of our bacteria along with us, and then find out like that there actually was life on Mars, and the only way that we found out is when we discovered that we made it go extinct. And it's like, are we mature enough to have like a good conversation about like maybe we should halt going to Mars if we find out it has a biosphere, because then Mars doesn't really belong to Terran life. And so this question is, why do we have any moral obligation to bacteria? We have no consciousness whatsoever. And all I can think is, like, man, if there was an alien civilization that was so far advanced that we would be comparatively bacteria, I would sincerely be hoping that they're asking that question. And that's kind of the reason why. Because it's like, maybe Mars is not, like, you know, the end-all be-all of these questions, but it sure is a big fucking question that we might have to deal with someday. And it's also, can you imagine if some aliens had that discussion for Earth like a bajillion years ago, and then we're like, well, let's just settle this planet, there's just some bacteria here, and then there's no us. Like, that's just a handful of the reasons why I think that way.
Yeah.
You know, like, we need, if we take the only life on another planet and snuff it out, we have literally destroyed all life on that planet.
Yeah.
And stopped any potential things that could have come from that. And this is why I don't think we are... this is why we don't think too much, or we don't like to... This is why I think we're not ready to have these conversations, because we still don't see anything's value beyond what it can produce for us in the next quarter.
But, I'm thinking... we can hope in that case that Mars is dead and sterile and all the life is instead on Venus, because they found some weird gas.
Phosphenes, yeah.
So, I don't think we're going to Venus anytime soon, because no one wants to go there.
We could. There is a part of Venus, the part where those phosphenes are, that actually we could have, like, balloon cities in.
Yeah, but it's so much easier to go to Mars. It has land.
It does have... Venus has land, it's just hot enough to melt lead.
Yeah, we can't go there.
And it rains sulfuric acid, but that's fine. That'll be Earth in, like, a few thousand years anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get there.
I know he doesn't, but it seems as if H-Bomber Guy lives off the grid. I know it seems he doesn't, but actually he does. He lives in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. Does it? I have no idea where he lives at all anymore.
Somewhere.
I feel like he's like shifted addresses like 4 times and has like a proxy address somewhere. He uploads all of his videos through like cassette that he sends to strangers who upload it for him. I feel like he's completely off the grid at this point. He doesn't even he probably lives in like Italy somewhere in a shed.
As far as I know, he does live in a very rural part of Wales.
Maybe.
That's
as far as we know.
As far as
that's
we
his
know.
First address proxy. His first mail proxy is there.
His public persona is that he lives in some very rural part of Wales.
Yeah.
Because occasionally he does maintain a London-based what's it called, PO box that him and Ollie share that he occasionally has to go get stuff from. So yeah. Gefilte fish is not mainly Russian, but mainly Eastern European. Okay, there we go. All right. Narrow slice, but very rich and fishy. I need to have this. I came up in a video, in my, because like, all right. When I was doing my Emma Goldman video, I found a quote from her dad from her biography. Listen to this, because this is like the most like late 19th century thing you'll ever hear, or mid to late 19th century. Girls do not have to learn much. All a Jewish daughter needs to know is how to prepare gefilte fish, cut noodles fine, give the man plenty of children.
That's all you need to know.
And the quote in my video is, girls don't have to learn much. All a Jewish daughter needs to know is how to prepare gefilte fish, cut noodles fine, give the man plenty of children, eat hot chip, and lie.
Yes. I was waiting for that joke.
It was too obvious?
It's very good.
Okay.
It's an obvious joke, but it has to be made.
Yes.
Someone needs to say it.
It's true. Thoughts on how much the rise of fascism is tied to conditioned helplessness and fracturing of the masses, e.g., I hate this, but what can I do, versus not actually buying in and not seeing it.
Sorry, what'd you say?
So like, there's a lot of people who don't seem to want to like do the agitation to do a socialism because they basically have like a learned helplessness from the fact that there's really nothing, like what can we do, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And how much of it is like them not actually believing that we're moving towards fascism or not seeing the fascism versus like just feeling helpless to stop it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it all adds up, doesn't it? I think a part of it is like a third option that isn't necessarily helplessness or like ignorance, but rather like an overly trustful view of the system, whatever that is. That like people see fascism coming, they are concerned about it, but they think it'll solve itself. Like that the system will take care of it. Like electoral politics will work, Joe Biden will be elected, or if Trump remains another 4 years, like things will become normal eventually. Like people will sort it out. I think that's the sort of idea that will happen, without realizing that they are the people who need to be the people who need to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think that there's a lot of people who feel helpless because the established powers that supposedly speak for them are deeply entrenched in not changing things in a fundamental way that need to be changed. And that is a very easy recipe. Because now the people who want to do the change that is necessary are people who have no power and are regularly denied power. And that is an easy combo for feeling completely, like, lost.
Yeah.
Like me, now. Or... yeah, what's it called? My optimism is in short supply these days, and my thinking process is more now towards like we need to get through our current crisis somehow and sort of regroup and come back, because we have opened some. There is optimism in the sense that we have definitely like that like that thing from Community where like the guy was watching the people dressed up as Dalmatians. Like, we've definitely awakened something, but the transition of Dean from non-furry to furry took a season's worth of development. And so if we want society to become leftist, and by leftist I mean furry or the same, we've awoken something. So right now we need to survive long enough for what we've woken up to wake up, if that makes sense.
For everyone to sort of wake up to that reality.
Mm-hmm. But right now, we have to, in the past, we needed to be like, all right, like we can do this because in 5 years we can do this. Now it's like, all right, if we can survive to January, that would be awesome. And if we can get through a point where we're not thinking about how to survive virus and fascism, then maybe we can regroup and do something, because it's in these moments of crisis that we can typically accomplish a lot of things in a short amount of time. Like look how much Europe changed because of after World War II. They just put in they just all looked at Sweden's notes and just started copying them down to stop communism.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the fact that Europe just copied off of Sweden's notes for an entire decade?
I mean, it's something that Sweden is very proud over, but it's something that also is not really talked about enough, I feel. And also, on some level, people did it too much and also not enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on how you view it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. All right. How much do you think you could understand about an alien world if all you had access to was their equivalent of Google Earth, i.e. without Street View? I went on a long trip last week and I was checking out where I'm going on Google Earth. I was thinking about how hard it is to tell what a structure is when you can only see it from above. If you only I
feel like you can deduce quite a bit.
Yeah, what's it called? We have archaeologists who can find a thumb bone and determine everything about their civilization somehow. So if we just get those people on board, I'm sure like with the intent focus of like xenoanthropologists or whatever, we would definitely be able to learn quite a bit. I'm always blown away by what archaeologists like. They're like, look, this pottery is slightly cracked here. This means that they ate nothing but meatballs. I was like, wait, what?
They have I feel like I personally wouldn't be able to figure out much of anything. But I feel like us as a race would probably be able to figure out like a lot from an alien civilization.
Yeah.
Like that.
It's true.
Although I would become confused instantly.
I wonder if FPS would have become a thing if we had good graphics from the start. Many people would have said it was like obscene. So like if we went for like, if we had good video game graphics from day one of video games, do you think that we'd have FPSs, or do you think people would have like kind of hit the wall of like how gory a modern FPS can be, and that we needed to be like ramped up to it?
No, I think we'd still have FPSs like we do today.
Yeah, I mean, like think of like we were doing that with horror movies and stuff too.
Yeah, like I don't think that would have impacted much of anything really.
Would have been more what's it called? Probably more controversial.
I'm not sure it would. I feel like even super basic graphics back then got like huge amount of controversy over how gory and controversial it is. And I don't think it would have mattered. I think like some bloody pixels or like a very 4K resolution blood texture, I feel like they would get us about the same amount of outrage, because I don't think it was ever really about how good, how realistic something looked. I think it was always more about like how what it symbolized,
Mm-hmm. Although something that is like much more like less cartoony and very graphically violent without the like ramping desensitization to it could have had something to do with could have had something to get into, like, for example, the research that needs to be done now to make some of these hyper violent video games are causing developers to get PTSD because they have to like actually see footage of people getting killed. And like, I wonder if that wasn't done, if a multi-billion-dollar industry required that kind of thing on their developers, like I think that might have killed it, because like I think right now a lot of the things that video games can get away with is because it's now like the biggest entertainment industry in the world.
Yeah. That's fucked up, actually.
Yeah. I think there's a Jim Sterling video about it, about how like the people who made, I think it was like the study was, I think people who were making Red Dead Redemption, and that like the people who had to make all the hanging scenes had to like look at a lot of footage of people being hung, and like some people had to take time off for PTSD reasons.
Video games are supposed to be fun, y'all.
Yeah, I don't know, like, how realistic do we need violence to be is a good question.
I wonder why people crave realism so much, though, because ideally we wouldn't need to know how realistic it would be anyway. I mean, ideally, most of us wouldn't know what a realistic hanging would look like anyway. So why does it need to look realistic in the first place?
I don't know.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like, gang, video games are supposed to be fun. That's why I'm playing Workers and Resources Soviet Republic.
Yes.
That's a good video game.
I don't want to kill children in video games that isn't just pushing the little skull button and then pushing so be it, and then they just turn gray and disappear. Like I've done to many children because I need to get my dread score up so that the human sacrifice can happen. Otherwise, I'm going to get factions,
That's true. Can't have factions. Gotta mass kill the children, I guess.
But like some like games, like if you think about like, I think like Spec Ops: The Line tried to do this, but also like apparently The Last of Us was trying to do this, but it was kind of ham-handed about like how using that kind of visceral, realistic violence as a way to show you just how bad violence is.
But I also feel like even Spec Ops: The Line managed to deliver like a lot of impactful imagery without necessarily being gory about it, you know?
It's true.
Like, I just remember one specific scene from that game where they shoot, what is it, white phosphorus over a bunch of civilians. You don't actually see anything. Like, you just see, like, blips on a map, and you see the aftermath, but you don't actually see you don't see gore, necessarily. I feel like gore, a lot of the time, is just gore for the sake of gore.
Mm-hmm. And, like,
I don't like gore in general, if you can't tell.
Yeah, like I'm down for the violence. I'm not like an anti-violent video game person. I am definitely thinking that we probably should draw the line when developers are getting PTSD because they have to watch videos of actual people dying in order to make it realistic. I feel like it's a good point to say, hey, maybe we should put on the brakes here.
Yeah.
If it's actively like if we have to like give our developers actual mental distress because they have to watch actual people dying as reference research, maybe that's the line.
Yeah.
That's the Spec Ops the line. Will American kids who grew up under Trump be far right? In my country, kids who grew up under Netanyahu are more right than those who lived before him. Will that happen in the U.S.?
I mean, if Trump gets through his American education program that he wants to do, maybe. But I don't necessarily think that because the leader is one way, it kind of disseminates.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's necessarily the case.
I don't know.
Propaganda does that shit, but those are different things.
I know that Netanyahu was in a different place when he first started than now, but like Trump's, like even kids who grew up under Trump are going to, like, Trump is a unpopular president. He is ruling through minority rule. Like, I think that you could definitely see like Trump has like a very strong negative connotation to a lot of people in the United States, and kids pick up on that shit. And so I think that in many ways, if there's anything that the Trump presidency is going to create, is sort of a lack of people who are moderate in their politics. Like, I think that kids who have grown up in the Trump era are going to get into activism at a much younger age than, say, we did. And that they're not going to go for, like, extremely centrist politics. They're going to be fa or anti-fa and not really much in between. That's sort of the...
What a sad reality we exist within.
Yeah, we're living in interesting times and I don't like it.
Please be boring. We need a new golden age where nothing happens.
Mm-hmm. Okay, some people are a little bit miffed that I kind of made a negative connotation about Peter Capaldi as a doctor. Peter Capaldi was a fun doctor. He just had terrible writing. Like, Peter Capaldi was a great person to play the doctor, but it was probably some of the worst written seasons of the show. Like, because
that's when Stephen Moffat wrote for it, right? Or
it was the end of Stephen Moffat's era. So like he couldn't even be clever with like the Matt Smith because Matt Smith was really good at like snappy dialogue and like really like clever word stuff. Peter Capaldi was like an angry old man, and it just didn't jive well with Stephen Moffat's writing, and so the stuff they try to do during that stuff was not really good. That's like the main thing. And so I think that the show was well overdue for a new showrunner, and the 12th Doctor seemed a little tacked on, even though he was great. Like, I loved Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi's a great actor, and he would have been a great Doctor in the hands of like good writers.
A competent showrunner.
Yeah. And if you need to know why he's bad, I would probably go in reference to what I am assuming is a 2.5-hour video about why Sherlock is bad on an H Bomber Guy video.
Excellent video, by the way.
Yeah. Did you know that Absorbeloff was designed by a little boy who won a contest? He has a YouTube channel now where he reviews TV shows.
Oh yeah, that's the villain in the really bad episode of Doctor Who.
Oh,
I should make sure also that the villain itself, not a bad idea. Like someone who steals faces. good premise. It's just that the general writing around the episode is just really bad and it's poorly executed, and it has like no budget at all. So, like that's the fault of like producers and showrunners rather than the idea creator behind it.
Mm-hmm.
What does he do though? What's his channel?
I don't know. Hopefully somebody will put it in the chat in a second.
I wonder if the idea person thinks that episode is bad, because I definitely do.
The thing is, like, when you are involved with a project, even when it's really bad, you kind of get blinders on. Like, I was listening to an interview with one of the cast of Enterprise, and he was still very convinced that that show was good.
I feel like you can see Enterprise as a good show if you really, really want to, and if you're part of it, I feel like you really want to.
I'll be honest. It like Voyager is one of those shows that's I'm definitely a lot kinder to under second watch through. It's a lot less bad than I thought, but also in the fourth season it got like pretty good. It almost
it's like it becomes weirdly good after a while.
Sometimes though it ends up with like I think I referenced like trying to cater to Trekkies in a way that I thought was dumb. Like, because they do this whole two-parter to explain, or this whole like multi-part episode to explain, or actually it's an entire thread through the entire season to explain why the Klingons in the '60s show look different.
Oh, I know, and it's so bad.
Yeah, and it's like, oh god damn it, this was bad.
Yeah, didn't need to explain that. Deep Space Nine even referenced it and they didn't have to like solve the problem. It's just Worf saying, "We don't talk about that."
Yeah, and then. Like, it should have been, like freaking Michael Dorn should have just looked directly at the camera and said, "We don't talk about that," and then winked, and then they just went back to doing a normal show because it was fun.
Yes.
Because the answer to the Klingons having road bump foreheads as opposed to, like, the head ridges is not because they're genetic augments who are actually part human. The answer is because in the 1960s they didn't have enough of a budget to make a big fancy head prosthetic. Yeah. And now they do. Like, that's okay. It's okay. You can live with that. I know Trekkies like who have like a Wikipedia idea of how lore should work are mad about that. But it's okay. It's okay. You just like hold your hand. It's like it's okay. Things can. It's not real.
It's all fake. It's just a TV show.
It's a TV show. All right. On that note, we are at 2:00.
On that shade of Trekkies, of which we both are.
Yeah, to like an unhealthy degree in my case.
Same.
To the point where I think I'm going to make some Star Trek videos on Tristan Won't Shut Up.
Yeah, I have to find an excuse to make. I've been trying to make a video about Dune on my History Politics Rant channel.
Oh, there's a lot of history and politics on Dune, so that's a pretty easy thing to go for.
Yeah, but I can't find anything like relevant.
You could just talk about the white man's burden and why it's Lawrence of Arabia in space, and.
But it's not though.
Or like in the big one that I would talk about, and this is the thing that people don't give enough credit for, is that Dune is basically the first real big science fiction novel to make climate change and like environmentalism like a major plot point in the story.
Yeah.
Which like. I think we should probably give some more. That's pretty rad. Speaking of rad, tell us where we can consume Mia content.
You can consume Mia content on youtube.com/c/Mia Mulder, which is my channel, on twitter.com/potatopolitics, or on watchnebula.com/Mia Mulder. I finally got the address right. I've been saying it the wrong one for almost a year. So you can do that.
Yeah, do it.
If you watch me on Nebula, I get more money.
Yeah.
For every stream of my videos on Nebula you do, I earn money because Nebula pays me very well, and I like to get paid.
I also, I heartily recommend it. All right, for everybody on Twitch, we're gonna go and raid Rocketansky because
yes,
because of course we ston. And for everyone, I'll see you all tomorrow night. Take care.